My daughter was crying while they laughed. That's what I saw when I opened the door. My son-in-law sat at my table, raising a glass with his parents, mocking her, mocking me. "She's just like her mother," Sylvia sneered. "Always so emotional, so weak." Chase smirked. "At least I didn't marry another Helen." They laughed louder, and in that moment, something inside me went silent. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just walked in. The laughter died the second they saw me. Haley's face was wet with tears. Sylvia froze mid-sip. Chase tried to smile. "Helen, you're back early." I looked straight at him. "Yes, early enough to hear what you really think of my family." No one moved. The air was thick. Even the chandelier stopped trembling. Then I said, calm and cold, "You enjoyed humiliating her in my house? Good. Remember that feeling. Because next time, it'll be yours." Silence. Robert shifted in his chair. "We were just having dinner." I turned toward him. "Then you seasoned it with cruelty." Haley tried to speak. "Mom, please." I raised a hand. "You don't have to apologize for their behavior." Sylvia set her glass down hard. "You always make everything about yourself." I met her eyes. "You made it about me when you mentioned my name." Chase leaned back, trying to act calm. "You're overreacting." "No," I said. "I'm responding. Finally." He shrugged. "You've always been dramatic. Maybe that's where Haley learned it." Haley flinched. I felt my pulse slow instead of rise. "You know," I said quietly, "people who call others dramatic are usually guilty of the damage." He smiled, but his eyes narrowed. "You think you can come in here and lecture me?" "I don't lecture," I said. "I expose." Sylvia muttered, "You've got a temper." "I have limits," I replied. "You found one." Robert cleared his throat again. "Helen, it's late. Maybe you should go home. Cool down." I looked around the room. "I am home. Unfortunately for you, so are you." The table went still. Haley whispered, "Mom, please, just leave it." I shook my head slowly. "No, darling, they counted on me leaving it. That's how bullies survive." Chase stood, his chair scraping the floor. "You've said enough." "Not nearly," I answered, "but don't worry, I'll make the rest official." He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said, "you'll find out when my lawyer calls." Sylvia laughed, a thin, nervous sound. "You wouldn't dare embarrass your own daughter." I looked at Haley. "Embarrass her? You already did that for me." Chase stepped closer. "You don't scare me, Helen." I took one small step forward, lowering my voice. "Then listen carefully, because you should. You humiliated my daughter in my house. You mocked her tears. That was your first mistake. Assuming I'd let it slide will be your last." His jaw clenched. "You don't own this place anymore." "Oh, sweetheart," I said softly. "You really should read the fine print before you brag." Robert tried again. "You're making a scene." I smiled. "Good. Let them see what respect looks like when it finally shows up." I reached for a champagne flute, held it up to the light. Tiny bubbles shimmered. The reflection of their faces trembled in the glass. "To family," I said evenly, "and to knowing when to end the joke." Then I poured the drink into the sink. The hiss of it hitting steel was the only sound. Haley's breath hitched. Sylvia whispered, "You're insane." "No," I said, setting the empty glass down. "I'm informed." Chase slammed his palm on the table. "You think you're better than us?" "No," I said. "I know I am, because I built everything you brag about." He glared. "You don't get to talk to me like that." "I already did," I said. "And unlike you, I don't need permission." Sylvia's voice cracked. "You came in here to ruin dinner." "No," I replied. "I came to end the tradition of disrespect." Haley's voice was trembling. "Mom, please stop. They'll what?" I cut her off gently. "Speak louder? Throw another insult? They've already used their best ones." Chase laughed again, forcing confidence. "You think you can scare me with threats?" I don't threaten, I said. I schedule consequences. He took a step closer. Get out. This is my house, I reminded him, but I'll leave because it's cleaner when I'm gone. Sylvia shouted, You can't just walk out. I turned toward her, calm as glass. I can, and when I do, the locks change. Robert blinked. What? You heard me. New keys, new codes, new rules, the party's over. Chase's face turned red. You can't do that. I walked to the doorway. You'll be amazed what a woman can do when she's been insulted in her own home, he called after me. You're finished, Helen. I stopped, looked back, and smiled faintly. No, Chase, you are. Sylvia's voice wavered. You'll regret this. I don't do regret, I said. I outsource it. Haley stood, tears streaming. Mom, I reached out, touched her cheek, wiped the mascara from her skin. You did nothing wrong. Remember that. And remember what I'm about to do. I'm doing it for both of us. Then I turned to the rest of them. You laughed at her pain. You laughed at me. I'm done giving you a seat at my table. Tomorrow the bank will confirm it's not your table anymore. Chase's mouth opened, then closed. Sylvia's hand shook around her glass. Robert looked down, silent. I walked to the front door. Chase shouted, If you walk out, don't come back. I looked over my shoulder. Exactly my plan. And I left. Outside, the cold hit me like clarity. The night air smelled clean, honest, something that room would never be. I stood by my car for a moment, letting the silence settle. Then I opened my phone, hit record, and spoke. When people mock you, I said, they believe they're untouchable. The trick is to let them keep believing it until you pull the ground out from under them. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door. The world outside went quiet, except for the ticking of the engine. Their laughter still echoed faintly through the windows, but I smiled. Because every sound, every insult, every word they said tonight would soon serve me. They thought I came home early by accident. They were wrong. Tonight wasn't an interruption. It was the beginning of their ending. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror. No fear, no doubt. Just the woman they shouldn't have provoked staring back. That night, I stopped being the polite mother they mocked. I became the storm they never saw coming. I didn't drive far, just enough to see the house shrink in my mirror. The lights were still on, the laughter still echoing. They thought I'd left in anger. They had no idea I left in control. I pulled over under a streetlight, opened my phone, and hit record again. When people show you who they are, I said, press record. Then I started listing what I'd heard, every insult, every face, every word. Evidence doesn't have to be loud, it just has to exist. I sat there for a minute, breathing. The anger was gone. What was left was purpose. I called my attorney, Hannah Pierce. She picked up on the second ring. Helen, it's late. I know. I need revocation papers drafted tonight. Her voice sharpened. Everything under Haley's husband's control? Everything, I said. Accounts, properties, the trust, all of it. She was quiet for half a second. Understood. I hung up, set the phone on the passenger seat, and looked back at the house one last time. They were still inside, toasting to their own arrogance. Perfect. Let them celebrate while they could. I started the car again. The road ahead was dark, but it felt clean. For years, I'd handled problems with grace. Now I'd handle them with strategy. Halfway home, Haley called. Her voice was shaking. Mom, I didn't mean for you to see that. I know, I said. I was supposed to. That was the universe making sure I finally saw the truth. He says you overreacted. I laughed softly. Of course he does. Weak men call it overreacting when strong women stop accepting disrespect. Silence, then a tiny sob. Mom, what are you going to do? Something he'll never expect, I said, and I need you to stay quiet. Quiet? Yes. When they think you're weak, they talk too much. Let them. She whispered, Okay. Her trust in me was the only sound that mattered. When I got home, I poured a glass of water, not wine. My hands didn't shake. My voice was steady when I whispered to myself, "They think silence is surrender. It's just strategy." I sat at my desk, opened my laptop, and went through every document. Bank transfers, property deeds, insurance files, all of it still under my name, all of it recoverable. They'd been so busy laughing they forgot who actually owned the pen. I printed copies, signed a few, and left the rest for Hannah. Each signature felt like a blade sliding into place. I wasn't planning revenge. I was executing protection. At midnight, Hannah texted, "Documents ready at my office. 8 a.m. tomorrow." I replied, "Make 3 copies, and a transfer to Haley's private account." She sent back one word, "Done." I leaned back in my chair and looked at the photo on my desk. Haley at 12, smiling in front of this same house. That little girl used to think I could fix anything. Tonight, she'd be right again. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the trees. For the first time in months, the sound didn't scare me. It felt like applause. My phone buzzed. Another message, this one from an unknown number. It was Chase. "We need to talk. You made a scene." I stared at the screen, smiled, and typed, "No scene, just a preview." He didn't reply. I saved the message anyway. Every piece of arrogance was future ammunition. The clock hit 1 a.m. I changed into pajamas, washed my face, and stared at my reflection. Same eyes, different woman. The old version of me would have cried, this one documented. Before going to bed, I opened the recorder one more time. My husband's family used to say calm women are boring. They'll learn calm women are dangerous. The next morning I woke up before sunrise. Coffee, files, keys, plan. Every move timed like a chess game. By the time they woke up, their entire foundation would be crumbling. I drove to Hannah's office downtown. The streets were quiet. When I walked in, she was already waiting with 2 folders. "This," she said, "revokes every power of attorney Chase ever held. He won't even be able to touch your mail." "Good," I said. "Then let's add one more thing. File notice of intent to transfer Magnolia Bay Estate to Haley alone." Hannah looked up. "Are you sure? That estate is worth a fortune." "I know," I said. "So let's see how they behave when it slips out of their hands." She smiled slowly. "Revenge?" I shook my head. "No, correction." We signed everything in silence. Pen scratching paper sounded like a metronome of power. When the last page was done, I closed the folder and said, "He laughed at me in public. Now we'll see if he can laugh in court." Hannah nodded. "I'll deliver the copies personally." Walking out of that office, the air felt different, lighter, sharper. For the first time in years, I wasn't the woman reacting. I was the woman directing. Driving back home, I passed the Grant family villa. Their cars were still parked out front. I could almost see them inside, laughing again. Let them. Every laugh was a receipt. At the gate, I paused and looked up at the house I'd built. It had been a home once. Now it was a battleground, and I had just moved my first piece. Before I walked inside, I whispered, "Thank you for tonight, Chase. You reminded me exactly who I am." Then I locked the door behind me, and this time it locked for them too. When I walked into Hannah Pierce's office, the city was asleep. It was 11:47 p.m. She didn't ask why I came. She already knew. Her desk light glowed on stacks of files. The smell of burnt coffee and cold determination filled the air. "I want everything Chase controls gone," I said. Hannah straightened. "All assets?" "Every single one." She nodded once, reached for her pen. "Then let's start the cleanup." While she typed, the clock on the wall ticked like a metronome. Each sound was a heartbeat of revenge. No shouting, no tears, just ink and silence. I laid the estate file on her desk. "Magnolia Bay Estate. He thinks it's half his." Hannah looked up. "Is it?" "Not after tonight." She pushed a document toward me. "Revocation of power of attorney. One signature ends his access." I took the pen, turned it between my fingers. For years, I'd signed checks, school forms, birthday cards. This signature would be different. This one would hurt. The pen clicked. Paper scraped. A new world began. Hannah's voice was calm. "I'll file these by sunrise." "Good," I said. "He'll wake up rich and go to bed irrelevant." She smiled faintly. "You always did plan like a general." "I learned from the battles I didn't start." The printer hummed. 3 copies slid out. Each page a quiet declaration of war. Hannah flipped through them. "We can freeze the joint accounts, too." "Do it," I said, "and transfer the reserve funds to Haley's name. Separate account. No access for him or his parents." "Understood." The way she said it sounded like a verdict. Outside, thunder rolled far away. Inside, I felt peace for the first time in years. "Do you ever get tired of being the calm one?" Hannah asked. I shook my head. "Calm keeps them blind." She chuckled. "You've always been dangerous when quiet." "Then it's about time they noticed." When the paperwork was done, Hannah leaned back. "You want me to send copies to Detective Cole?" "Yes, he'll need them soon." "Something I should know?" "Not yet," I said. "Let them dig their own hole first." I stood, smoothed my coat, and looked out her window. Downtown lights shimmered on wet asphalt, like tiny mirrors reflecting my next move. For 14 years, they underestimated the wrong woman. That mistake was about to mature with interest. Hannah handed me an envelope. "All signatures confirmed. Your move, Helen." "My move," I repeated. "Finally." I drove home through the empty streets. The rain had started. Soft, steady, almost polite. Wipers swept the glass in rhythm with the clock inside my head. I wasn't thinking about anger anymore. I was thinking about precision. When I reached the house, every window was dark except one, Haley's. She hadn't slept. She opened the door before I knocked. Her face was pale, eyes swollen. "Mom, are we safe?" "We will be," I said. "What did you do?" "Something clean." We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Chase once laughed. Now it was covered with folders, receipts, and plans. Haley touched the papers. "Is this legal?" "Completely," I said. "That's what makes it beautiful." She tried to smile. "He won't just stop." "I know. That's why we don't ask him to." I showed her the documents. "This revokes every right he ever had to touch our assets. This," I tapped another page, "transfers the estate to you. And this one, what's that?" "A clause," I said. "If he tries to contest it, he loses his claim on everything else." Her eyes widened. "You thought of everything?" "No," I said softly. "I remembered everything." And we worked in silence, signing, sorting, scanning. At one point she whispered, "How can you stay so calm?" "Because panic feeds them," I answered. "And we're done feeding." At 2 a.m., the papers were sealed in a silver folder. I wrote one line on top. "Pattern of abuse. Documented." Haley watched me write it. "You're really doing this." "I'm already halfway done," I said. I walked her to her room. "Lock the door tonight. Tomorrow, you'll see what quiet power looks like." She nodded. "I love you, Mom." "I know. That's why this time, I won't let you forgive them." Downstairs, I turned off every light except the one over the kitchen sink. The reflection of that light hit the silver folder. It glowed like a weapon. I sat there for a long moment, recording another note on my phone. "They say revenge is loud. They're wrong. Real revenge whispers through paperwork." Outside, headlights passed. Inside, the printer finished its last page. A property transfer receipt. I smiled. It sounded like closure. Before going to bed, I placed the folder in the safe and whispered, "Tomorrow, they'll still think they own this house. Let them sleep in the illusion. Morning will take care of the rest." I closed the safe, locked it, and exhaled. Each click of the lock was another heartbeat steadying itself. Upstairs, Haley's light finally went out. The house fell quiet, but not empty. It was listening. Every wall, every door, every silent witness in this place would soon tell my story. I poured a glass of water, looked out the window, and whispered to the dark, "You humiliated the wrong woman. Now watch how quietly I rebuild my throne." The rain softened, the wind calmed, And somewhere inside the stillness, I could almost hear them laughing again, not realizing the echo was already turning into evidence. I smiled. Let them laugh tonight. Tomorrow, silence will answer for me. The next morning started with silence. Not the fragile kind, the powerful kind. The kind that fills a house when control returns. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard soft footsteps. Haley stood in the doorway, still in her robe, eyes red. She'd barely slept. "Mom," she whispered. "I'm sorry." I turned. For what? For last night. For him. For everything. "Stop." I put the mug down. "You don't apologize for someone else's cruelty." She blinked, confused. "He said I make things worse, that I'm too emotional." I smiled faintly. "Emotion isn't weakness, sweetheart. It's radar. It shows you what's real." Her voice cracked. "He said if I'd just be calmer, his parents would respect me." "They never will," I said quietly. "Not because you're emotional, but because you're kind. And kindness scares people who live off control." She sat at the table, head in her hands. "I don't know how you do it," she murmured. "You don't even flinch." "I flinched for years," I said. "You just didn't see it." The coffee machine clicked. I poured 2 cups, one for her, one for me. "Drink," I said. "Then listen carefully." She looked up, waiting. "You're done begging for respect. From today, we act like they don't exist." Her eyebrows pulled together. "What do you mean?" I opened my folder and spread the documents across the table. "These are transfers. Accounts, estate, titles, all under your name now." She froze. "Mom, you can't." "I already did." Tears filled her eyes again. "He'll hate me." "He already does. He just hides it behind charm." She shook her head. "I don't want to destroy anyone." "We're not destroying," I said softly. "We're preventing. There's a difference." She looked down at the signatures, at the stamps and seals. "This is all legal?" "Every word, every line." She exhaled, trembling. "How do you know what to do?" "I pay attention when people think I'm not listening." Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the porch swing. I pushed the folder toward her. "Read. Understand what power looks like on paper." She opened the first page, the estate transfer. Her fingers traced her own name where mine used to be. Her voice barely a whisper. "You trust me with everything?" "With everything," I said, "because I raised you to protect what's right, not what's easy." She looked at me, eyes filled with both fear and awe. "What happens when they find out?" "Then we teach them what boundaries mean." She laughed nervously. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple. People like them only win when we react. We stay quiet, we stay precise, and we let evidence do the screaming." I stood and opened the blinds. Morning light flooded the kitchen, cutting across the silver folder like a blade. "That's our proof," I said. "Now we guard it." Haley got up slowly, her movements still uncertain. She walked to the window beside me. "I used to think silence was weakness." "It can be," I said, "but not when you control it." She looked at me with something new, respect, maybe even pride. "Will he come back?" "Yes," I said. "And when he does, he'll think he's walking into the same house." "But he won't be." I watched her shoulders square, the first spark of strength lighting in her posture. She wasn't crying anymore. I reached out, touched her cheek. "You have my eyes," I said. "Use them. See people for who they are, not who they promise to be." She nodded, whispering, "I'm scared." "Good," I said. "Fear means you're awake." We sat together side by side, reading through every line. I explained what each signature meant, what each clause protected. She listened, memorized, asked questions. For the first time in years, her mind was sharper than her pain. At noon, she closed the last folder. "So that's it?" "For now," I said. "Paper first, peace later." She tried to smile. And Chase? He'll find out soon enough. But when he does, he'll be facing a version of you he's never met. Her lips trembled. What version is that? The one I raised. We both laughed softly, a sound too rare in this house. Outside, sunlight spilled across the magnolia trees. I turned to her. You know why I named this place Magnolia Bay? She shook her head. Because magnolias bloom after storms. The harder the rain, the stronger they get. She smiled. That's poetic, Mom. It's biology, I said, and strategy. We gathered the papers and locked them in the cabinet. I handed her a spare key. This is yours now. Guard it with your silence. She held the key tight. Mom, what if they try something again? They will, I said simply. And we'll be ready. Haley looked at me, uncertain. Ready how? I smiled. You'll see. By the time they realize what we've done, their reflection will already be evidence. I placed my hand over hers. I promise you this, Haley. No one will ever make you small again. Not while I'm breathing. Her eyes shone, but this time not from tears. It was fire. Quiet, steady fire. We stood in the kitchen for a long time, mother and daughter, warriors in slippers and pajamas, surrounded by documents instead of weapons. Outside, the wind calmed, carrying the scent of magnolia through the open window. I looked at her one more time and said, He thinks last night broke me, but it only trained me. Then I picked up my phone, opened the camera app, and aimed it at the front door. Next time he walks in, I whispered, he won't see a victim. He'll see his last mistake. People think revenge starts with anger. They're wrong. It starts with order. By noon, my kitchen table looked like a war map. Documents, schedules, camera diagrams, names, dates, deadlines, every line another step toward justice. I called Detective Cole Sanders first. He answered on the second ring. Whitmore, he said, voice rough from years of truth. Cole, I need eyes, legal ones, I said. Define legal. Surveillance, my property, internal only. He paused. You expecting trouble? I'm expecting evidence. There was silence, then a low whistle. All right. You always were 3 moves ahead. 4, I corrected, and counting. I hung up and dialed Hannah. Can you meet at Magnolia Bay within the hour? I'll bring my laptop, she said, and a lawyer's definition of patience. By 2 o'clock, the front gate opened. Hannah stepped out of her car, heels clicking against the gravel. Cole followed in his unmarked sedan, and behind him, a van with the name Porter's Security and Locks. Mr. Porter himself climbed out. Gray hair, steady hands, no small talk. He'd installed every lock in this house 15 years ago. Now he was here to change them all. Inside, we gathered around the dining table, the same table that once hosted laughter and cruelty. It looked different now, functional, dangerous. Cole spread his notepad. Let's start simple. Cameras, mics, entry points. Porter nodded. I'll handle setup, no wireless signals, wired only. They can't jam what they can't find. Hannah looked at me. You're sure you want this on record? Yes, every word, every insult, every lie. I'm done fighting ghosts. I want footage. Porter smiled faintly. Walls have ears, Mrs. Whitmore. Then let them listen, I said. He got to work. The first drill bit whined against the doorframe, a sharp sound, like surgery. Each screw tightened my control back into place. Hannah opened her laptop. We'll also create digital logs, she said. If Chase tries to access joint accounts, the system will alert you instantly. Good, I said. He thinks I'm predictable. Let's use that. Cole raised an eyebrow. You sure you're not a cop? No, I said. Cops follow evidence. I design it. Porter ran cables through the baseboards, connecting small cameras to hidden ports. He worked fast, methodical, precise. Placement here catches the foyer, he said. Another one above the fireplace for wide coverage. And the kitchen, I added. That's where he performs. Cole grunted. Perform? He likes an audience, I said. He humiliates better when people are watching. Hannah tapped on her keyboard. Audio links ready, timestamps synced, motion triggers active. She turned the screen toward me. Each camera showed a live feed, empty rooms, quiet corners, my home breathing again. Beautiful, I whispered. Finally, silence that works for me. Porter finished the last camera and stood. System armed, hidden, invisible, unless you know where to look. I smiled. That's perfect. He never looks below the surface. Cole packed his notes. I'll check in twice a week, quietly. If he crosses the line, I'll have proof before he knows he's being watched. Thank you, Cole. He nodded. I don't like men who laugh at crying women. The moment he left, Hannah leaned on the table. What's next? Stage 2, I said. We make him comfortable again. She frowned. Comfortable? Yes, people destroy themselves faster when they think they're safe. I walked through each room, checking angles, adjusting frames. In the living room mirror, my reflection stared back. No fear, no tremor, just calculation. Haley appeared behind me. Mom, what's going on? Who are these people? Helpers, I said. For what? For your peace of mind. She looked around, confused. You're putting cameras in the house? Yes. Isn't that extreme? Not when you've been underestimated this long. Hannah gave her a gentle smile. Your mother's turning the game inside out. Haley hesitated. So, this is legal? Every bit of it, I said. When he crosses the line again, and he will, it won't be a story anymore. It'll be evidence. Haley nodded slowly. He'll hate that. He'll never see it coming. As evening fell, Porter packed up his tools. Before he left, he handed me a small black remote. System control. One-click records. Red light means they're watching. I took it carefully. Thank you. He tipped his cap. You're not the first woman to take her house back, but you're the calmest. Calm is my weapon, I said. When the door closed behind him, Hannah turned to me. What about the estate documents? Already in motion. The moment Chase checks the property ledger, he'll realize it's not his anymore. And when he reacts, I'll be recording. Hannah smirked. You're terrifying when polite. I've learned it's more efficient. Later that night, the house was quiet again. Every hallway hummed with hidden electricity. Every camera a witness waiting to speak. I walked past Haley's room. She was on the phone, whispering. Probably Chase. Probably another apology she didn't owe. I opened the door, just enough to see her wipe her eyes. Don't, I said softly. She turned, startled. Mom, don't apologize to someone who uses your tears as punctuation. She swallowed hard. I don't know how to stop. You will, I said, when you see him for what he is, not a man, but a habit. I closed the door quietly. Back in my study, the monitors glowed faintly. 6 small squares of still life. Kitchen, foyer, stairs, porch, living room, and the mirror hallway. It looked peaceful. It was anything but. I pressed the red button on the remote. A tiny light blinked in the corner of the screen. Recording. Finally. Let's begin, I whispered. Hours passed. The footage showed nothing but calm. Rain tapping against the windows, shadows stretching across the floor. And then, near midnight, a familiar car pulled up the driveway. Chase's. He wasn't supposed to be home tonight. I didn't move, just watched as he entered, still on his phone, laughing with someone. His father, probably. He dropped his keys on the counter, grabbed a drink, and leaned against the fridge like he owned the place. He didn't notice the camera blinking behind him. He called out, Haley, you up? No answer. He smirked. Silent treatment again. Must run in the family. He poured another drink. The sound of glass against marble echoed through the speakers. Arrogance in surround sound. Then he muttered, I'll fix this house soon enough. He laughed again. I froze the frame. That sentence would be his undoing. The red light reflected off the wine glass, flickering across his smug grin. He had no idea he'd just signed his own confession. I leaned back, calm and deliberate. He thinks I'm quiet because I'm weak, I said softly. I'm quiet because I'm recording. The cameras kept rolling. The night stretched long and patient, and as Chase stumbled toward the stairs, I whispered to myself, let him rest easy tonight. Tomorrow, every wall will tell me the truth. Invitations went out 2 days later. From Chase, not me. Family dinner, the message said. Same table, same house, same arrogance, different rules. Haley showed me the text on her phone. Should I go? Yes, I said. Why? Because this time, we're not guests. We're witnesses. She hesitated. What if he tries to start something again? Then we'll let him finish it. On camera. That night, I wore black. Simple, elegant, deliberate. Not for mourning, for strategy. Black blends with shadows. Shadows hide the truth until it's ready. When we arrived, laughter spilled from the dining room. Déjà vu. Sylvia's voice first, then Robert's, then Chase's, loud, fake, confident, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. The cameras were live. Every word would be saved. Every smirk recorded. I stepped into the room. Ah, Helen, Sylvia said, tone dripping with sweetness. You came. Of course, I said. Wouldn't miss dinner with my favorite comedians. Robert laughed too loud. Chase poured wine like a host rehearsing control. Let's keep tonight civilized, he said. I always am, I answered. Haley sat quietly beside me. Her hands trembled, but her chin was up. Pride, not fear. Sylvia reached for the bread basket. We were just talking about the estate, she said, eyes glinting. You know, future plans. I tilted my head. Oh? Enlighten me. Robert cleared his throat. Chase is ready to handle things. He has vision. Vision? I said. Or entitlement? Chase chuckled. Mom, we don't need to make this dramatic. Then stop auditioning, I said. His smirk faltered. Sylvia stepped in. He just wants what's fair. Fair, I repeated. Interesting word. Remind me. Is it fair when a man uses his wife's tears to fund his ego? The room went silent. Even the clock seemed to hold its breath. Chase lifted his glass. We're all family here. Let's not ruin the mood. Oh, I agree, I said. Let's not. I took out my phone, placed it face down beside my plate. A red light blinked once, unnoticed. Chase leaned forward. Look, the papers are simple. Your signature is just a formality. Perfect, I said. Let's make it formal. He blinked. What do you mean? I smiled. Say that again, slowly. My signature is just a formality, he repeated, confused. Good, I said softly. That's on record. Haley stared, realizing what I'd done. The color drained from Chase's face. Sylvia looked around, sensing danger, but too late to stop it. I lifted my glass. To honesty, however accidental it may be. He tried to recover. You can't record me without— I can, I interrupted. And I did. Robert slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. No, I said. This is accountability. Haley whispered, Mom. It's all right, I told her. They've been loud for years. It's time they hear themselves. Chase leaned back, laughing nervously. You think you've trapped me? No, Chase, I said, steady and cold. You trapped yourself the moment you confused silence with surrender. He tried to reach for my phone. I moved it just out of reach. Careful, that's fragile. Like your reputation. Sylvia's voice cracked. You can't use this. Actually, I can, I said. The law protects people from abuse. It doesn't protect abusers from exposure. The room vibrated with quiet tension. Haley finally spoke. You humiliated me in front of them, she said, voice shaking. And you laughed. Chase turned. Haley, don't what? She snapped. Don't embarrass you? You did that yourself. Her voice broke, but not from weakness, from strength finally surfacing. I reached over, took her hand. Well done, I said softly. Robert pushed his chair back. This dinner is over. Not yet, I said. The meal's still being served. I pressed the remote in my pocket. A soft beep answered from the chandelier above. Hidden camera active. Smile, I said. You're on evidence. Sylvia gasped. You're insane. No, I said. Just prepared. Chase stood. You think anyone will believe you? They won't need to, I said. They'll hear you. His jaw clenched. You don't scare me. You should be, I said quietly, because I'm the calmest person in this room. He glared at me. You can't take everything from me. I don't have to, I said. You'll hand it over yourself. You just don't know it yet. The tension cracked like glass. Robert muttered something under his breath and stormed out. Sylvia followed, whispering venom into Chase's ear. He didn't move. He just stared at me, cornered by his own arrogance. Finally, he spat. You'll regret this. I stood slowly, gathering my coat. I already did, I said. That's why I'm here. Haley rose beside me. We walked to the door together. Behind us, his voice echoed, low and angry. Everything in this house will be mine. I stopped, turned slightly. Then start with the cameras, I said. They've already fallen for you. He froze. I saw it. The flicker of realization, the first fracture of fear. It was beautiful. I walked out without another word. Outside, the air was cold and clean. Haley exhaled shakily. That was incredible. That was necessary, I said. She laughed through tears. He looked terrified. Good, I said. Terror's honest. I handed her the phone. Keep it safe. Back up the footage to Hannah tonight. She nodded. What do we call this file? I smiled. Dinner 2, served cold. As we drove away, the house behind us glowed with warm light. False, theatrical, already dying. He didn't know it yet, but his voice, his words, his arrogance were all trapped inside my walls. His confession, gift-wrapped in his own ego. Haley looked out the window. What happens next? I watched the road ahead, steady and sure. Next, I said, we let him feel what silence really sounds like. The night swallowed the house behind us. For the first time, quiet wasn't an ending. It was a countdown. The next morning, I called Mr. Porter. He didn't ask why. He just said, same locks or new system? New, I answered. Everything changes today. An hour later, his van pulled up. The same logo as 15 years ago, but this time, the job felt personal. He stepped out with his toolkit, gray hair slicked back, eyes steady. Bad night? He asked. Bad decade, I said. Inside, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Every wall still remembered last night's laughter. Porter set down his case. Where do you want me to start? Every door, every window, I said. If it opens, I want it mine again. He nodded once, wordless respect. The first metallic click echoed through the hall like punctuation. A sentence ending, a new one beginning. While he worked, I walked room to room. Haley was still asleep upstairs, exhausted from everything. She needed rest. I needed certainty. The dining room smelled of spilled wine and regret. I looked at the chandelier, the one that caught Chase's recorded face. A single glass droplet swung slowly, reflecting morning light like a warning. Perfect, I whispered. Let it remember. Porter called from the foyer. New lock's in. This one's unbreakable unless someone knows the code. Only 2 people will, I said. Me and my daughter. He smiled. Then you're already safer than most. Not safe, I corrected. Prepared. He moved to the back doors, replacing each bolt with silent precision. Funny, he said. I always liked this house. Feels like it's watching you. I met his eyes. It is now. He laughed softly. Walls have eyes, Mrs. Whitmore. Then I'll let them see, I said. Outside, wind rattled the magnolia trees. Inside, the hum of the drill blended with the rhythm of my heartbeat. Each screw turned tighter, every door stronger. When he finished the last lock, Porter handed me a small keypad remote. Master control, custom alarm, cameras, and backup storage. You'll get alerts on your phone. I pressed the test button. The faint beep echoed through the house. Low, calm, powerful, like a heartbeat that finally belonged to me again. He gathered his tools. Job's done, he said. She's sealed. Good, I said. Now she can protect herself. He hesitated by the door. I've seen a lot of people change locks after a divorce, he said. But you're doing something different. I'm locking out the past, I said, and keeping the evidence inside. He nodded slowly, respect replacing curiosity. Whatever you're planning, I hope they deserve it. They do, I said, and they'll know it soon. After he left, the silence felt different. Heavier, but solid. The house wasn't empty anymore. It was alert. I checked each door myself, one by one. Front, side, back. Every click was a declaration. Mine, mine, mine. In the kitchen, I stood by the new keypad. It glowed faintly blue, numbers waiting, control waiting. I typed in a code only Haley and I would understand. Her birthday reversed. The system armed with a soft chime. For the first time in years, that sound didn't scare me. It comforted me. Upstairs, Haley appeared at the railing. Mom, what's that noise? Our house waking up, I said. She smiled weakly. It sounds peaceful. It's the sound of boundaries. She came down the stairs, barefoot, sleepy. Did you change all the locks? Yes. Why? Because protection isn't paranoia. It's proof you learned. She nodded, silent understanding. Will he come back? Probably. And if he does? He won't get in, not this time. She looked around, noticing the new cameras tucked into corners. Feels different in here. It is, I said. Every wall used to echo their laughter. Now it listens for truth. And she tilted her head. You're really turning the house into a witness. Exactly, I said. It's time they realize silence isn't compliance. It's evidence. We walked together to the front door. I placed her hand on the new lock. This door doesn't open for cruelty anymore, I said. She smiled faintly. Then neither do we. Outside, the afternoon sun broke through the clouds, scattering gold light across the porch. Inside, the air felt clean, measured, deliberate. I turned the key one last time. Click. That sound, small, precise, absolute, was louder than any apology I'd never received. I looked around the house and whispered, For years, this place held my silence. Now, it will hold his. Then I walked to my office, checked the monitors, and saw the reflection of my own calm face staring back. That was the face they once called weakness. Now it was the face of control. By the third week, silence made them nervous. I didn't text, didn't visit, didn't ask. People like the Grants mistake peace for weakness, so I let them. It was a Tuesday morning when the knock came. 3 short taps. Polite, rehearsed. I already knew the rhythm. It was the sound of arrogance pretending to care. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in a gray suit. Clipboard. Badge. Smile too wide. Behind her, Sylvia Grant waited at the curb, pretending to scroll her phone. She'd brought company. A performance audience. I opened the door 2 inches. Can I help you? The woman smiled. Good morning, ma'am. I'm from the State Social Services Department. We've received reports about possible cognitive decline and unsafe conditions. I blinked. Really? Yes, she said. We need to perform a brief home inspection. Her voice was steady. Too steady. May I see your ID? I asked. Of course. She flashed a laminated badge, quick enough to hide its details. Fake. Cheap lamination. Wrong seal. Amateur work. I smiled back. Of course, come in. And as she stepped inside, the camera above the doorway blinked red. Porter's work. Perfect timing. Would you like some coffee? I asked. She hesitated. No, thank you. This won't take long. I'm sure it won't. She walked through the living room, eyes scanning every corner, the bookshelf, the fireplace, the quiet order. Do you live alone? My daughter visits, I said, and my lawyer drops by often. Oh, you have a lawyer? Always. She scribbled something on her clipboard. Then, carefully, she said, We were informed by a close family member that you may be under stress, possibly not making rational decisions. I nodded. A close family member. Let me guess. One with a trust fund problem? She froze for half a second, then recovered her smile. I can't discuss the source. Of course you can't, I said. Fraud has rules too. I turned toward the foyer. Would you excuse me a moment? I'd like my attorney present for this inspection. She waved her hand. That's not necessary. Oh, but it is, I said. You see, this home records everything. You wouldn't want your good intentions misunderstood. She shifted her weight, uneasy. Outside, Sylvia pretended to take a call, still watching. Her face reflected in the window, waiting for me to crumble. I dialed Hannah Pierce. On speaker, I said. Hannah's calm voice filled the room. Mrs. Whitmore, what's going on? I have a visitor claiming to be a social worker, I said. She says she's here because of a report. Pause. Then Hannah's tone sharpened. Describe her badge. The woman straightened. This is inappropriate. Hannah cut her off. Does it say Department of Human Services or Social Support Division? The woman stammered. The latter. Fake, Hannah said flatly. Real IDs use the first. The woman's eyes darted to the door. Too late. I pressed the security remote. Every lock clicked shut. I looked her dead in the eye. You're not leaving. You're trespassing on evidence. The color drained from her face. I think there's been a misunderstanding. There has, I said. You thought I was still the quiet one. Outside, Sylvia started walking toward the porch, confusion turning to fear. Before she could knock, sirens wailed in the distance. Detective Cole Sanders didn't do small talk or slow entries. 2 squad cars pulled up as the fake social worker's voice broke. This isn't what it looks like. Oh, I hope it is, I said, because every second of it is on video. Cole stepped through the door, badge flashing. Ma'am, he said to the woman, you're under arrest for impersonation and unlawful entry. Sylvia gasped. This is absurd. No, Cole said, turning toward her. What's absurd is thinking you can outsmart a woman who documents everything. Sylvia's face went pale. Chase said she wouldn't fight back. Cole raised an eyebrow. Looks like he was wrong twice. The officers cuffed the fake inspector. Her clipboard hit the floor, papers scattering like confessions. One sheet slid to my feet, a printed script. Ask about mental clarity. Mention medication. If defensive, contact family immediately. At the bottom, Robert Grant's signature. I picked it up slowly. Well, I said, they finally put something in writing. Hannah's voice still echoed through the speaker. Cole, take photos of everything. This just became a criminal case. He nodded. Already on it. Sylvia stepped backward, eyes wide. You'll regret this, she hissed. I smiled. I already did, years ago. As Cole led the impersonator out, Sylvia pointed at me. You set us up. No, I said. You set yourselves up. I just pressed record. She stormed off, shouting into her phone, probably calling Chase, spinning lies before he even knew the footage existed. But lies don't age well under light, and my cameras loved light. Inside, Hannah spoke again. I'll file everything under falsified report and harassment. By morning, the press will have it. Good, I said. Let them see how far they'd go to keep a woman quiet. Haley appeared on the stairs, eyes wide. Mom, what's happening? Justice, I said simply, in real time. She looked past me at the flashing red and blue lights outside. They actually tried to declare you unfit? They tried to declare me silent, I said. That's worse. Hannah's voice softened through the phone. You okay, Helen? I glanced at the monitors. Every feed showed order, proof, truth. I'm perfect, I said. They just turned my evidence into a headline. Cole came back inside. They're booked. You want a copy of the footage? I already have it, I said. But send one to the Grant's family attorney. Courtesy copy. Cole smirked. That'll sting. Good, I said. Payne's a great teacher. He nodded and left. The sirens faded. The house exhaled. Haley came down the stairs slowly, her voice small but fierce. They really thought they could fake a government visit? They thought intimidation works better than truth, I said. It doesn't. She smiled, half in disbelief. You're scary when you're calm. That's the point, I said. Quiet doesn't mean soft. It means calculating. She wrapped her arms around me suddenly. I want to be like you. You already are, I said. We stood there, watching the light fade through the windows. The cameras blinked once, steady, red, alive. Outside, Sylvia's car sped off, her voice echoing through the night like a warning to no one who mattered. Inside, I whispered to myself, they used to laugh at me. Now they watch their own downfall in high definition. The house returned to silence. Not empty silence, satisfied silence. And in that quiet hum of justice, I smiled. Justice doesn't shout, I said softly. It documents. The next morning, my phone didn't stop vibrating. News spreads fast when power smells blood. Widow files legal action against prominent Grant family. Evidence of fraud, impersonation, and emotional abuse, the headline read. Underneath, a still image from my hallway camera. Sylvia frozen mid-scream. The fake inspector in handcuffs, and me, calm, unbothered, in the background. They finally met the woman they tried to erase. Hannah called at dawn. Everything's filed. Fraud, harassment, attempted coercion. The footage is airtight. Good, I said, stirring my coffee. Robert Grant's lawyers called. They want to settle. Let them sweat first. She laughed softly. You really are terrifying when you're polite. I learned from the best, I said. Men like Robert mistake decency for surrender. By 9 o'clock, every major business blog had picked it up. Corporate financier's son caught in domestic scandal. Magnolia Bay Estate entangled in fraud investigation. Their last name, once a brand, was now a headline disease. Chase's company website went offline within hours. Board members resigning, investors withdrawing. Karma didn't knock, it hacked. I poured another cup of coffee and turned on the news. There he was, Chase Grant, walking out of his building, cameras flashing, questions flying. Mr. Grant, is it true your wife's mother recorded evidence of financial manipulation? Was your mother involved in falsified reports? Did you try to have her declared incompetent? He didn't answer. He couldn't. The truth was louder than any press statement. I leaned back in my chair. He laughed at me in front of everyone, I murmured. I let everyone watch him regret it. Later that afternoon, I met Hannah in her office downtown. Her desk was covered in folders labeled Grant v. Whitmore. She looked up from her laptop. Court date is set. Preliminary hearing next Tuesday. Will it go to trial? I asked. Maybe, but with the footage, the forged documents, and the false report, they'll fold before it reaches the bench. I smiled. Then make sure folding hurts. Hannah's expression softened. Helen, what do you really want out of this? Peace, I said. But first, perspective. Perspective? Yes. For them to look in the mirror and finally see what they are. She nodded slowly. Then let's give them a mirror made of headlines. The next morning, the Savannah Chronicle ran a full front-page spread. The Whitmore case, when silence turned into evidence. Under it, a screenshot of the Grants' dinner party. Chase mid-sentence, Haley's tears catching candlelight, and me in the doorway, half-smile frozen in time. It wasn't just humiliation now, it was documentation. And documentation has no sympathy, only proof. I received messages from women I'd never met, strangers. Thank you for standing up for yourself. You gave me courage to record my own dinner. Your calm scared them. It inspired us. That was the real victory, not the lawsuit, not the headlines, the ripple. But legal wars have phases, and Hannah wasn't done. By the third day, she'd filed injunctions freezing every joint account tied to Haley's name. Robert's financial network, the shell corporations, the offshore trusts, all flagged for investigation. Their lawyers scrambled, leaking statements to save face. One read, "The grants deny all allegations. Mrs. Whitmore's accusations are based on misinterpretations." Hannah's reply hit back within an hour. "Facts don't require interpretation. They require playback." And the playback went viral. 57 seconds of humiliation turned into a million-view expose. Clipped, subtitled, shared. The comments were merciless. "Never mess with a calm woman." That smile at the end? Cold perfection. She didn't shout, she documented. Even the morning talk shows ran it. One host said, "She's what happens when elegance learns the law." I almost laughed. Almost. 3 days later, Hannah called again. "They're offering a public apology. Full retraction, settlement confidentiality clause." "How much?" 8 figures. "Decline it." She blinked. "You're serious?" "Absolutely," I said. "I don't want silence bought. I want it earned." There was a pause. "Then we go public," Hannah said. "Completely." "Completely," I confirmed. That afternoon, she filed a motion to unseal the case. Every detail, every name, every falsified report became public record. By sunset, reporters camped outside the Grants' estate. Robert refused to answer questions. Sylvia claimed mental exhaustion. Chase released a short statement. "We regret any misunderstanding." I smiled when I read it. A man who once shouted at dinner, now reduced to whispering apologies into microphones. Regret suits arrogance poorly. Haley watched the news with me that night. Her voice was quiet. "Does it ever stop hurting?" I reached over and squeezed her hand. "It stops when you stop explaining yourself to people who never listened." She nodded. "He texted me." "What did he say?" "Just one word, sorry." "And how did that feel?" "Like too little, too late." "Then you're healing," I said. At the hearing, Chase sat 2 rows ahead, jaw tight, eyes hollow. Hannah whispered, "He's already lost more than money." "I know," I said. "He lost the illusion of control." Robert avoided my gaze. Sylvia wore sunglasses indoors. Cowardice pretending to be fragility. When the judge entered, silence filled the room. Hannah stood, calm and composed. "Your Honor, this case isn't about property. It's about dignity, something the defendants tried to rewrite." She placed a tablet on the evidence stand. The video played, laughter, tears, my voice. "Cruelty seems to be tonight's main course." The courtroom went still, not out of pity, out of shame. Even the judge didn't look away. When the clip ended, Hannah spoke. That laughter was her downfall. My client's silence was her defense. The ruling came a week later. Full damages, public apology. Legal control of Magnolia Bay Estate returned to Haley's name permanently. And an additional note, the defendant's actions constitute moral and financial coercion. Hannah called it poetic justice. I called it documentation with consequences. That night, I sat on the porch, laptop open, reading the final court summary. In the reflection of the screen, I saw my own calm face, the same face they once mocked, the same woman they said would crumble. Now, the woman who made them legally irrelevant. My phone buzzed again. A text from Hannah. "It's over. You won." I typed back, "No." I finished. There's a difference. The Grants vanished from society within weeks, their empire fractured, their names erased from donor walls and holiday galas. No one laughs with ghosts. And in that silence, finally, I exhaled. Justice didn't shout. It was served, precisely, elegantly, and permanently. The stage lights were too bright, the kind that expose every lie. Behind them, 1,000 faces waited for the keynote speaker. Chase Grant adjusted his tie, smiled for the cameras, and told himself the nightmare was over. It wasn't. It was just beginning. The annual Business Leadership Forum. He'd begged to keep his spot, claiming the controversy was a private misunderstanding. The board relented, under pressure, not respect, and now he stood before a crowd, ready to dissect him alive. "Good morning," he began, his voice trembling under the microphone. Leadership isn't about control. It's about trust. A hollow line from a man who had weaponized both. I watched from the back row, quiet, anonymous among hundreds. I didn't need to speak. I brought the truth with me. Behind him, the screen flickered. A tech assistant whispered something, panicked. Chase kept talking. He didn't notice the feed had changed, until he heard his own voice, not the polished one, but the one from my dining room. She's just like her mother, dramatic for no reason. The crowd froze. Then came my reply. Funny. I didn't realize cruelty was your family's favorite game. The footage played in full, every second from that night. Haley's tears, Sylvia's smirk, Chase's laughter echoing under the chandeliers, and me standing at the doorway, calm as a loaded gun. The audience didn't breathe. Even the air felt guilty. Chase turned toward the screen, face drained of color. "Turn it off!" he shouted. No one moved. The technicians stared, horrified. The conference director stood frozen, headset dangling. On stage, Chase's voice cracked. This is private. This is defamation." But the video kept rolling. Hannah's voice cut in. Calm, factual, undeniable. The court finds the defendants guilty of fraud, harassment, and coercion. Then came the headline montage, the Whitmore case, when silence became evidence. A wave of whispers spread through the hall. The journalists in the front row started filming. Phones lifted, flashes strobed. There was no saving face, only documenting its collapse. I watched him stumble back, his hand gripping the podium for balance. He looked smaller now, like a man realizing the echo of his own cruelty. He tried to speak. The microphone caught only fragments. "Someone sabotaged. This isn't—" The feed froze on his face. One frame of shock, fear, exposure. Then black, silence. The room erupted. Not in applause, but in disgust. Chairs scraped. People whispered. One man muttered, "That's the guy who mocked his wife's mother?" Another said, "I'd fire him before lunch." Chase dropped the microphone. The clang echoed like a gavel. He stormed off the stage, face hidden, career bleeding out behind him. I stayed seated. No smile, no satisfaction, just stillness. The kind that means balance has been restored. Hannah's text appeared on my phone. The footage leak was anonymous. Not us. I replied, "It found its audience. That's all that matters. Because justice doesn't always come from courtrooms. Sometimes it comes from screens, from replay buttons, from the same technology they once used to humiliate." I walked out before the cameras turned toward the crowd. Outside, the air was cool, heavy with consequence. A reporter brushed past me, shouting into a mic, "Chase Grant leaves the stage after leaked footage proves harassment allegations true. His wife, Haley, has filed for divorce." Haley. She finally did it. Quietly, firmly, her own way, the way she'd watched me do it. I stood by the glass doors as Chase's car pulled up. He was shouting at someone on the phone, panic wrapped in expensive cologne. When his eyes met mine through the glass, he froze. For a second, everything around him blurred. People, noise, motion, all gone. Just the two of us, divided by a transparent wall. He mouthed something I couldn't hear. Maybe sorry, maybe help. Either way, too late. I didn't move, didn't blink, just watched him. Long enough for him to understand that silence is the last word. The cameras caught his reflection in the glass, his face beside mine. That image hit the evening news, the woman who didn't shout, the man who finally fell silent. By dusk, his sponsors withdrew. By night, his company suspended him. And by morning, the internet had already buried him under the same laughter he once used to destroy others. Public laughter became public regret. Exactly as it should. I drove home slowly, the headlights cutting through the fog like quiet applause. Haley was waiting on the porch, blanket around her shoulders, eyes tired but calm. "He's finished," she said. "He finished himself," I corrected. She handed me a cup of tea. "Are you happy?" "No," I said. "I'm done." There's a difference. We sat in silence, the soft hum of crickets filling the space where anger used to live. The night no longer felt heavy. It felt earned. Haley leaned her head on my shoulder. "You didn't even need to speak." "That's how women like us win," I said. "We stop performing pain, we start performing proof." The porch light flickered once, reflection bouncing off the window pane. Inside, the old dining table sat empty, the same one where it began. I looked at it through the glass. Same table, same room, different woman. "Regret," I whispered, "is louder than laughter." The wind carried it away, soft and final, and for the first time in years, I didn't hear their voices anymore. Only mine, steady, unapologetic, free. Morning light poured through the magnolia branches, scattering gold across the porch. The house smelled like peace, quiet, grounded, earned. Haley sat beside me, her knees tucked under a blanket, steam rising from her cup of tea. For the first time in months, her eyes didn't carry weight, only stillness. "Do you ever think about them?" she asked. "No," I said. "Only about who we became because of them." She looked out toward the driveway where everything began, where laughter once sounded like war drums. "I keep replaying that night," she said. "I should have spoken up." "You did," I said. "You cried. That was your body saying what your voice couldn't yet." I felt so small. "And now?" She smiled faintly. "Now I feel seen." That was the difference. Not revenge, recognition, not power, peace. Haley sipped her tea. "I used to think strength meant shouting," she said. "But you never did. You just stood there." "Because panic feeds them," I said. "Silence starves them." She nodded slowly, absorbing it. The kind of lesson that doesn't need repetition, just remembering. For a moment, the world was still. The same walls that once held humiliation now held quiet pride. Magnolia Bay had returned to its real owner, not in paper, but in spirit. The land knew peace again. Haley's voice broke the quiet. "Do you forgive him?" I looked at her, the question hanging between us like a test. "I don't owe him forgiveness," I said. "Forgiveness is freedom. I already took mine." She smiled, soft but sure. "That's powerful." "It's math, darling. Every minute spent hating is 1 minute still owned by him. I'm done renting space in my own head." She laughed quietly. "You make it sound so simple." "It is simple," I said. "Not easy, but simple." A breeze rolled through the porch, carrying the scent of morning coffee and magnolia petals. Haley leaned her head on my shoulder. "You know what the internet calls you?" "I try not to," I said, smiling. "They call you the silent storm." "Fitting," I said. "Storms don't announce themselves. They just change the landscape." She laughed, a real laugh this time, the kind that doesn't carry apology. And in that moment, I knew the cycle had broken. The pain that started with me ended with her. That's how generational curses die, not in shouting, but in learning. We sat in silence for a while, listening to the sound of life returning. A delivery truck in the distance, a bird landing on the porch rail, the faint creak of the house breathing again. "You know what's funny?" Haley said after a pause. "What?" "I thought revenge would feel different. Bigger, louder. It rarely does," I said. "Because revenge isn't supposed to feel good. Justice is." She turned to look at me. "So which one did we get?" "Both," I said. "We earned justice quietly, and that's the sweetest kind of revenge." Haley exhaled. "I wish I'd known all this sooner." "You weren't supposed to," I said. "Some lessons come after you survive." "And what's the lesson?" "That you win twice, when you don't become them." She nodded, eyes glistening in the sunlight. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "You didn't just protect me. You taught me how to exist." I smiled. That's what mothers do. We turn our bruises into blueprints. Haley's phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Chase's name flashed briefly before she hit delete. No hesitation, no trembling, just resolve. That, I said softly, is how peace looks. The porch creaked as she stood up, walking down the steps toward the magnolia tree we'd replanted a week ago. It was small, fragile, but steady. She knelt and brushed her fingers through the soil. "Do you think it'll grow?" she asked. "It already has," I said. "Just look at you." She laughed, wiping her hands on her jeans, sunlight catching her face. In that golden moment, she looked nothing like the woman who cried that night. She looked like the woman who survived her own storm and learned how to forecast peace. When she came back up the steps, I handed her a mug of coffee. "To new beginnings," I said. She raised her cup. "To silence that speaks louder than screams." We drank quietly. Birds chattered. The world moved on. Unaware, it was sitting next to two women who had rebuilt their universe from ashes. Haley set her cup down and looked at me again. "Mom?" "Yes?" "I'm proud of you." I smiled. "I'm proud of who you became because of me." The magnolia leaves rustled like applause. The sunlight shifted, reflecting off the window pane, one last reminder of the mirror that started it all. "Funny," I said. "They thought silence was surrender." "And it was strategy," Haley finished. We laughed, quiet but strong. Not the laughter of cruelty, the laughter of clarity, the kind that comes when you've already won and don't need to prove it. For a long moment, we sat there just breathing. No tension, no ghosts, just peace, the rare kind that doesn't ask for an audience. I looked out at the horizon, the magnolia tree framed in sunlight, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like defending myself. I felt like living. The world can keep its noise. We built something louder, dignity. The morning arrived like a secret only I was meant to hear. Soft light stretched through the curtains, tracing silver lines across the kitchen counter. Steam rose from my coffee cup, slow and calm, not rushing anywhere, not hiding from anything. For the first time in a long time, peace didn't feel borrowed. It felt owned. I stood by the window, the same one where laughter once echoed through walls like bullets. Now, the only sound was the steady hum of a refrigerator and a sparrow tapping at the glass. Even silence sounded cleaner. Haley was still asleep upstairs. Her shoes sat by the door, scuffed, muddy, alive. The house no longer felt haunted by humiliation. It felt like home again. On the table, a folder sat open. Final court disbursement, Magnolia Bay Estate, transferred permanently to Helen Whitmore. Beneath it, the deed bore her signature, confident, looped, decisive. The same hand that once trembled holding tissue now held power. That was worth more than money. That was legacy. I took a slow sip of coffee, the bitterness grounding me. They used to say bitterness ruins taste, but sometimes it teaches it. The sunlight caught my reflection in the window, older now, sharper, still standing. They used to call me too cold. Now they'd call me impossible to burn. My phone buzzed once. A news alert. Chase Grant resigns from board of directors. Public apology released. I didn't open it. Some things no longer deserve witness. The last time I saw him was through a pane of glass. His face pale under fluorescent light, mouth forming words the world had already stopped listening to. That was the moment I understood true silence. It isn't absence. It's dominance without noise. I glanced at the old mirror hanging by the door, the same one that had reflected my humiliation years ago. It caught the morning light now, no ghosts inside it, only me. My face looked softer, my eyes didn't. They laughed at me once, but that morning I realized something simple. Laughter fades faster than proof. I walked outside to the porch. The air smelled of wet soil and magnolia blossoms. Haley's little tree stood taller, its leaves trembling in the breeze. She'd been watering it every morning before work. The roots had already taken. So had we. I sat down on the old wooden chair and watched the world wake up. A neighbor waved from the fence line. I waved back. For years, I'd avoided people. Now, I didn't need to hide, not because they changed, because I did. I thought about every choice that led here, every silence I held, every line I didn't cross, every document I filed instead of screaming. Revenge had never been about shouting louder. It was about making silence permanent. Hannah once told me, "Justice doesn't need volume. It needs timing." She was right. It was because when the moment came, I didn't raise my voice. I raised my evidence, and that made all the difference. The door creaked open behind me. Haley stepped out, hair messy, sweater too big, eyes still half asleep. "You're up early," she said, stretching. "Old habits," I replied. She sat beside me, wrapping her hands around her mug. "What are you thinking about?" "Value," I said. "The price of silence?" she teased. "No," I smiled. "The worth of it." We sat there, side by side, watching sunlight move across the yard like forgiveness. Not the kind that forgets, the kind that stops needing to remember. Haley leaned her head on my shoulder. "You really never yelled at him," she said. "No, I didn't need to." "Don't you wish you had just once?" I thought for a moment. No, my calm made more noise than his rage ever did. She smiled. "That's very you." "Let's hope it becomes very you too." We laughed softly, and the sound didn't echo. It landed, gentle and complete. For the first time, laughter felt clean again. A breeze rustled the magnolia leaves, scattering petals across the porch. Haley brushed one from her lap. "Do you ever wonder if they regret it?" I looked at her, then at the horizon. "Regret is their new language," I said. "They'll spend the rest of their lives translating it." We stayed quiet for a while after that, listening to the faint ticking of the old clock through the open window. The same clock that once counted the minutes of my humiliation now marked time in peace. Haley broke the silence again, softly. "You taught me that silence isn't weakness." "It's strategy," I said. "And strategy," she added, "is power." Exactly. The sun climbed higher, filling every corner of the porch in gold. I picked up my cup, the last sip of coffee cold, but satisfying. Peace has a flavor, and it's earned. Haley stood, kissed my forehead, and went inside. The door clicked shut, gentle, final, full of love. I sat alone for a while longer, watching the world keep turning, slow, patient, unstoppable. The wind brushed across my face, soft as a thank you. Maybe from the house, maybe from the past. I looked down at my hands, steady, unshaken, mine. Then I whispered, for no one but myself. They laughed at me in my own home. But that night, I took back my peace, my name, and my worth. I ran my thumb along the edge of my coffee cup, a small circle of warmth that somehow felt infinite. I didn't shout. I didn't fight. I calculated. A pause, and they never laughed again. The camera of memory pulled back. The porch, the magnolia tree, the golden light spreading like justice fulfilled. Fade to quiet. Fade to mourning. Fade to value.